Now we're live?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It took a little bit for it to get connected. I realized I was on Wi-Fi, and I live in a very rural area, and the Wi-Fi is no good. I have to be on the data connection on my cell phone. So, thank you for joining this live. My name is Kayla Cox. I'm the owner of this here channel. I lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting, mainly through OMAD, 1 meal a day, and just walking 6 miles a day. Walking at a slow pace. I eat whatever I want. I'm not keto or even low carb or anything like that. I love cake too much to be low carb. So if you have questions about intermittent fasting, weight loss in general, walking, hitting a step goal, that kind of thing, you can leave that in the chat. My husband is in here moderating the chat as 6 miles to supper. So thank you, Jay, for doing that. And he'll be posting like links to things, like different videos and stuff if there's something to kind of refer back to. So if you have questions, please just pop them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. I am not a doctor or a nutritionist or a dietitian. I'm just somebody who has been there and done that when it comes to weight loss. I had struggled with my weight my entire life until I was about 29. That's when I started doing intermittent fasting. And then at that point, I lost 80 pounds and I've been maintaining in a healthy BMI since October of 2018. So it's been about 6 years now. So, all right, let's get started with a question. It said, this is from Teresa Mueller, 5446. Says, I would like to try this, but I have to take a medication in the morning and evening, and it says to take it with food. Do you have any suggestions for people that take medication where they actually have to eat with the medication? Okay, so first of all, this is really more of a doctor question. Like I would say, first talk to your doctor and make sure that I'm going to tell you like some different strategies that you could use, but also clear this all with your doctor again, because I'm not one. But one thing that has worked for some people is to just go ahead and drink like milk with it. Like a lot of times, if you ask the doctor like how much do I need to eat with this medicine, all it really means is it's there not so much for like a real serious reason other than it might cause upset stomach. So sometimes what they'll say is just drink like a half a glass of milk or maybe a whole glass of milk with it, and that'll prevent that from happening. Sometimes it might just be you'll be fine just taking it with nothing, but I would again always clear that with your doctor. Now, as far as if it's a morning and evening kind of medication, and assuming that otherwise it would be fine, you could just work your window around that too. You could just say like, I'm gonna put the medication in the eating window, and that could potentially work, kind of depending on like how far apart it really has to be spaced. I mean, when I first started doing intermittent fasting, a 12-12 was kind of a popular one that people talked about. It's not one that's often talked about anymore. It seems like I'm not always watching, or very rarely do I watch other channels like intermittent fasting videos, but it does seem like the most popular windows and stuff these days are 16-8 and up. But anyway, that's also an option. You could just have a longer fasting window, or sorry, a longer eating window, like a 12-12, and just put them both in the eating window. Ultimately, intermittent fasting, the way it works is it just helps you to eat the right amount of food so that you're in a caloric deficit. When you have a shorter period of time to eat, it's just easier to eat less food. It's harder to overeat. Doesn't mean that it's impossible to overeat, but you can lose weight without intermittent fasting, and you can gain weight while you're intermittent fasting. So it's really more of a tool. So ultimately, if because of a medication kind of reason, you can't quite get it to work, you can still figure out how to lose weight. It just might be a different kind of technique. So let's see. Marcia Franklin 5691 says, I'm just starting intermittent fasting, age 73, and I need to drop about 10 to 15 pounds. Can I build up to 16 hours? Yesterday I felt dizzy, so I made an egg real fast. Is 16 so much better than 14 or 15 hours? So a couple of different things. First of all, I think when you feel dizzy, that's a big red flag, and it says, okay, something was going on, probably, not eating enough, or maybe going a bit too aggressive with the window. Now, uh, you mentioned your age was 73. So one thing, and again, I would say clear it with your doctor, but the research seems to be pointing towards as you get older, the amount of body fat that you want on your body is a bit more than we would maybe want when we're younger. Um, my understanding is around the time you hit 65, 70, and are moving upward, you need more body fat on you to not only to pad yourself for if you fall, you're less likely to break a bone if you've got some extra body fat, but also just it helps protect against disease and things like that. So the BMI, like kind of like the what would be called like more of a healthy BMI might even be almost like overweight, or even a little bit overweight. Um, Again, that's just some research that I've seen that seems compelling based on like they just took the like all cause mortality and looked at that and said, okay, well actually it looks like when you have a bit more body fat as you get older, that's actually kind of more optimal. So and so adding those two things together, you are starting to feel dizzy. It might just be your body's way of saying, wait, this, like, I don't like this. But yes, the first question, can you build up to 16 hours? I highly recommend, because this is how I did it. And I think this is how, for the vast majority of people, it works the best, is to slowly build up your fasting window. So start out with a very, very easy, short fasting window. Just get used to the idea of, I'm not eating right now. Like, I can tell myself no for this period of time. And then when you like get used to that, then you push it out just slightly, so that it always feels really easy. The idea is you want it to always feel easy. You want it to always feel doable. You don't want to feel dizzy. You don't want to feel nauseous. You don't want to have headaches. You don't want to feel low energy. Like it's good to be feeling good when you're trying to lose weight. And there is a sweet spot. It does take experimentation and trial and error, but you can find that spot where it feels very easy, but your energy is still good and you are losing weight. It might be slower than what you want it to be. It will be slower than what you want it to be. If you're like me, like I wanted it to be 5 pounds a week of weight loss and just have it be done, but when I was losing weight at the quickest rate, then that was when I went from about 222 down to like 158. That was a pound a week on average when I was being consistent. And then that last bit of weight was a third of a pound a week. So it's very, very slow, very, very slow. But it always felt easy. And because it always felt easy, then in maintenance, it felt easy too, because it's like, oh, this is just that same easy thing I always do. And so that has been a really big difference between my weight loss journey this go around versus every other time I tried to lose weight. Every other time I tried to lose weight, I was like miserable during the weight loss phase. Happy I was losing weight, but just kind of miserable overall. And then finally get down to the goal weight, it's like, oh, thank God that's over. And then just promptly go back to all those habits that got me overweight in the first place. And so, that would be the whole cycle for me. So yeah. And is 16 so much better than 14 or 15 hours? No. Everybody is a little bit different when it comes to intermittent fasting and finding that just ideal kind of a window. I have seen this in my own family. Like I do really well on OMAD. Like I can fast for that's basically a 24-hour fast, right? And it like I feel great. I feel wonderful. My husband, on the other hand, is a thin guy. He's never had a weight problem, and he has a much harder time if he practices OMAD. He does from time to time, just for reasons other than trying to lose weight, just for productivity or spiritual reasons, that kind of thing. And it's just harder on his body. It's like he gets like kind of like lightheaded feeling or shaky legs or just nauseous. And so it's not the same for everybody across the board. So yeah, figuring out what works best for you in particular is a really good idea. And go slow. Go slow. Okay, progress and transformation. And thank you for being a member, by the way. Glad you're on here. And thanks for all the members out there. If you want to join this channel, you can click the join button below. You get access to the vlog I do and also an additional live that I do just for members. And so those are, like a smaller kind of group, a little bit more intimate. And I also respond to comments on those videos and stuff. Okay. So her question is, I'm on my last day of a 5-day fast for autophagy, not for weight gain. Oh, sorry, for weight loss. What amount should I eat to break my fast and refeed? Okay, so I've done 2 different 5-day fasts, and I'm probably not the template you would want to use as far as like how to refeed, because when I break my fasts, just in general, I do not do it gently. I am like, there are people out there who are like, oh, I open with like some bone broth and then I wait a little while and then I eat this, and like I just eat. I just like sit down and I eat when it's time to refeed. Both 5-day fasts, I was like the first one I broke it with a charcuterie board, and that was delicious. There was like peanut butter M&Ms and bread and meat, like I think roast beef and like grape tomatoes, and like it was delicious, like lots of little different little things to eat. And then the other one, I think it was like we were RVing at the time with no power at the place. I don't know. It was like spaghetti, a plate of spaghetti, I think. And that was some of the best spaghetti I'd ever eaten, even though it was not great spaghetti, but it was like, because I had been 5 days without food, it's like, this is amazing. Um, so uh, so I'm not the best one to ask. Uh, I think it's good to know your body. And just kind of know, like some people have a rough time even with something like OMAD, right? Like they'll say they'll get kind of an upset stomach if they go that long between food. And so again, is a very kind of individual thing. So if you're the type of person that's like, oh, I gotta kind of be careful, then you might want to do something like maybe some bone broth, or just like maybe a little sandwich or something, and then just try your best to eat slowly. I Eating quickly is something I still work on. So it's it's to me it's just one of those hard habits to break. But especially when you're sitting down, you really haven't eaten in quite some time. I think it is wise to go even slower than you think you should. But yeah. All right. Hey, Darlene. I'm glad you're in here. She didn't have a question. She just wanted to say hi. um, Darlene. Man, Darlene, you've been like, I think you've been with me since the beginning. I think. That's been a long time. Like, it's like this month will be seven years that I've been on this YouTube channel. So that's pretty cool. Okay, Valerie Borovic 3885 says, did you start with eating 2 meals a day? I definitely struggle with OMAD, but I want to stick to lunch and dinner without snacks. I'm a person who prefers larger meals, and I hate breakfast. Well, I'm very much similar to you then, because I love larger meals, and that's really the thing that makes OMAD so great for me, and what makes eating multiple meals more difficult for me. I like to sit down when I eat to eat a bigger portion. I like to when I stand up, I want to feel good and full, and so the challenge is if I eat multiple times a day, I have to eat just a lot less at each meal. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to have OMAD, it's a certain amount of food. But if I want to have 3 meals, I got to split that into 3 and spread it out over the course of the day. And that's just harder for me. And I was also the type of person who really didn't want breakfast. The main reason I would eat breakfast is because I had it drilled into my head, like, oh, it's the most important meal of the day, and like you're going to kill your metabolism if you don't eat breakfast. And so for a long time, I would just like kind of force myself to eat breakfast. But then when I came upon the idea of like intermittent fasting, it was like, wait, I don't like, I could push breakfast later like that. It kind of worked naturally with like what I kind of wanted to do anyway. So I did not start with 2 meals a day. I started with just an 8 hour fasting window. And in the beginning, what I would do is I would say, I'm not going to eat past 10 o'clock at night. Cause I was kind of like just staying up late and eating into the night, just kind of snacking around and stuff. And then when I would wake up, I'd eat like immediately. So that first little boundary was like, okay, from 10 to 6, I'm not going to eat. Okay. And then after a while, I was like, well, I could push it out a little bit later. Like I could push breakfast a little bit further out. And so I just pushed and I pushed. And in the beginning, I didn't really have any rules about like, I need to eat a certain number of times. It was just kind of like, I'm in the eating window, so I'm going to eat. But as my fasting window got longer, I did start to see that usually when I was snacking, it was emotional eating. And so the way I learned that was I would be in my fasting window, right? Like it'd be, like say 10 o'clock in the morning. And let's say I was going to eat at something like noon. Sometimes it would be 10 o'clock in the morning, and I knew that I wasn't going to eat right then. I wasn't, hungry or whatever, but just all of a sudden I would just like find myself in front of the pantry and just looking for something to eat. And I would kind of like catch myself like, whoa, like, why are you here? Like, what's going on? Like, this is not when we eat. And so I started to see that like most of the time when I was standing there, it was because I had just gotten upset about something. I mean, it could have been something like money stress, like, oh, we just had a budget meeting. My husband was a realtor at the time, and he would, like commission were a straight commission, and you have expenses, going out every month, whether you are, closing deals or not. And so, sometimes there was like a stressful thing like, oh, we thought we're going to have 3 closings this month and all of them fell apart for whatever reason. And plus we've got the bills. And so like that kind of stress would then like kind of trigger me to like go want to get a snack. But when I caught myself like that in that kind of pattern, I thought, oh, okay, so I'm not doing that. Like I got to first of all figure out how to deal with the stress in some other way, which what worked for me was just to walk. Like I had a step goal. I was like, okay, I can, walk back and forth in the house, and I'm not going to eat, so I'll just walk instead. Uh, and uh, then as I started to see that connection of like, oh, when I am, you know, uh, eating snacks, that might usually be because I'm stressed. I just started to notice those connections. Like, yeah, usually when I have that urge, like I want to get a snack. There was something else going on. Like I'm bored, or there's this task that I got to do, and I don't really want to do that task, so I'd rather go have a snack. And so over time, to see like, oh, that snacking behavior is probably in general something I should not do because it's not eating for the right reason. It's just, some other thing like procrastination or whatever. So I after a while I said to myself, okay, it's probably a better idea that when my window opens, a better strategy would be like when my window opens, my eating window, um, eat a meal, eat enough to last me um, until supper, right? So that was basically 2 meals. It wasn't a hard and fast rule. Okay, there were days where I'd be like, well, I didn't really eat enough at that meal. I want to eat an apple, or I want to have a granola bar, or whatever. Like it wasn't hard and fast rule. But then so I would do that, and then but because I went into intermittent fasting to feel really easy, what I would do a lot of times is after supper, but before my window closed, I would eat like a small snack, just so they'd be like, okay, like I didn't want to play that game in my head of like, well, technically I didn't eat right before my window closed, and so trying to break, kind of breaking earlier, making it more complicated than it needed to be. So I was like, I'm gonna eat right before my window closes, so I'd have like a half a PB&J, something like that. And so then over time, though, as fasting got even easier, it just basically turned into usually a meal at the beginning and a meal at the end of the window. No snack at the end. And then eventually I got to OMAD, and I really loved that. And so that was kind of the process. It was just it eventually got to that point. Um, uh, but yeah, so it definitely can work. And plenty of people, stick with just 2 meals a day, and that works for them. Like I said though, I really like having the one big meal. So Carissa, she's also a member. Thanks, Carissa, for being a member. Um, she says, I've been following you since you first started. I didn't know that. Uh, I'm happy to be a member. You're by far my favorite pastor. Well, thanks. um, I got a question. What are you eating for dinner today? I've already eaten dinner. So tonight we have liturgy. So we need to fast a bit before liturgy begins. So supper had to be earlier. And so what I had was a half a pizza. So not a half a piece of pizza, a half of a pizza. So Sally's Baking Addiction. If you're just like super curious about like what kind of pizza is a homemade pizza, I make the dough from a recipe on Sally's Baking Addiction, which her website. Oh my gosh, I love to bake. I loved baked goods. Her stuff is amazing. Just like every recipe I've ever made from her website has just been a winner. Anyway, so make the dough and then add the cheese and everything. Lots of cheese. So the pizza itself had a lot of cheese, and plus some ricotta cheese, red pepper flakes, Parmesan cheese, sriracha, and like basil. I was gonna put onions on it, but I didn't have any onions. And slices of garlic. It was really good. It was good pizza. And some extra sauce to dip it in. So it was good, and I'm full, very full. I'll be like that is like one of the only meals where I could probably count those calories up and post them because I'm so consistently like I'm gonna eat half that pizza. Just like I know. So other meals, it's always like, oh well, there's so many different combinations you could do, and that's just a common question people ask me, like, how many calories are you eating? I'm like, I don't know. Like I ate half of the Sally's Baking Addiction pizza. So what does that mean? Actually, that dough makes 2 pizzas, so it was like half the dough recipe, and all the other stuff. Okay. Tracy B says, allowing myself not black coffee has been a game changer. Do you ever have one at night? I assume decaf. It saved me last night from having something worse. Well, yeah. So that is one awesome thing about the coffee is, especially when it's not black, because I hate black coffee. It can give you just that little bit of like, I need something. I just need something, and so I'm gonna have that. And so I I probably should always have decaf in the evenings. I don't always. Like I'm having this at like 3 o'clock, and I'm probably gonna be. It'll be harder for me to go to sleep tonight, probably, most likely. But I don't really like decaf coffee in general. I'm just kind of stubborn about it. I mean, it's okay, but yeah, I would rather drink the regular and just have a little bit harder time going to sleep. Uh, but yeah, the coffee can really just help because to me it's like also a relaxing kind of a ritual type thing too. So if I'm like, like like I want to do something that's akin to eating, right? Like it's like there is a thing that's relaxing about eating. So coffee can give you that very much the same experience. You're sitting down, consuming something, but that something isn't really gonna, um, uh, mess up your weight loss results. So, um, oh, I should mention we have a coffee channel called Coffee Coffee Coffee. Me and my husband do little silly coffee reviews. We're not coffee snobs; we're just average Joes. And so, anyway, you can check that out. So, yeah. Oh, a little side story on the. You said it saved you last night from having something worse, and that reminded me of General Stanley McChrystal. He is a guy I like. He was in the news a lot, like back in the early 2000s. I think he was like some sort of like commander in Iraq. Anyway, he practices OMAD and has for a long time, and so there was this story about how like his like number two guy was trying to practice OMAD also because he's like, I want to be just like him, and he does OMAD. I'm going to do OMAD, and like that guy was being so strict with himself, like I just one meal, not going to have anything, and you know, because he's like, because that's what he does. And so then one day, oh, he was his aide de camp. Anyway, so he came into his to General McChrystal's office one day, and he saw General McChrystal like just take this thing of pretzels and just pop like a handful of pretzels in his mouth, and the guy the guy was like, "What did you just do?" And he's like, "Well, I just needed a bite, so I just." Sometimes I do that. And the guy said, if I had a gun, I would have, or he said, I almost just shot him, which he was joking, obviously. But it is funny how, like, you don't have to be that strict, right? Like with yourself, like you can allow yourself a little something. The key is to have it be a little something that really never gets out of control. The problem with most people who have dealt with weight issues is like the pretzels turn into not just one handful, but like a lot of handfuls, and then throughout the day, and then you're really not ever really fasting, So you do have to draw that line. But anyway, it is something I think about that story sometimes. So let's see. Darlene says, "Congrats on your new book, Escape from Olszek's Castle." Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, let's see. Here it is. Yeah, so this is the book. I wrote this book several years ago, actually, and I put it out, and then this is book 2 in the series. It's young adult fiction, fantasy, and I'm working on book 3 right now, so I'm excited about that. But thank you, Darlene. You're always so encouraging. And I wish I knew. There was somebody a long time ago in the comments section. It was sometime in 2018 or 2017. No, 2018. Yeah, and they encouraged me to write this book, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, and that was the first real book I wrote. And that started something. So thank you to whoever that was. I can't remember who it was. It just like it gave me the encouragement I needed. So okay, Connor Oz says, how many hours do you fast for? Does the coffee you're drinking contain calories? Okay, so last question first. Yes, this definitely has calories in it. Okay, so this is this is iced coffee. My husband thought that the coffee was going to be cold. So he just poured it into glasses, and then he realized after he put some ice in it, the coffee was really hot still. So it had not been sitting around for as long as he thought. Anyway, so
you can't just say that I thought it was going to be cold. It was brewed a long time ago, I thought.
Yeah, he thought I had brewed it a long, long time ago, and I hadn't. It was like right before, or not right before, but just a short time ago. Anyway, the point is, this has half and half in it. So half and half, if you're not from America, you might not be familiar with it, but basically it is, the ratio is basically like 1 part whole milk and 1 part heavy cream. If you put those two things together, that makes half and half. Now, how many calories is in here? Well, now this I don't know, because I don't really know how much he poured in there, and I don't know how much coffee this holds. It's kind of a this is why I don't count calories, because it's like, I don't know, like I pour the half and half until it turns the right color. And this is maybe, no, that's about the right color. This is the right color. This up here is a little bit too light, but that's just because it has ice. But half and half, like, just to kind of give you a rough idea, I've measured in the past to try to figure out, like, okay, about how much, how many calories is that? It's probably between 60 to 80 calories. Like, again, I'm not exact. Okay, so there are some times where I'm going to pour heavy, and there are other times where the brew is going to be lighter. Like, it really depends on a lot of different factors. So I hate to be vague, but I would say that's probably the mix. Somewhere between there. And so how many hours do I fast for? When I'm doing OMAD, that's practically a 24-hour fast. I mean, I do not, and I have not ever been really uh, strict on that as far as like trying to keep the OMAD at exactly the same time each day. I mean, at this point, I've been practicing it for so long, and I'm just maintaining. That's my goal. Like, I'm not trying to lose, so I'm even more laid back than I would be otherwise. But even back when I was just practicing OMAD for weight loss, it'd be like normally, I'd be eating around, let's say, 6 or 6:30, and so some days that might mean that I've fasted for 23 hours and 30 minutes, let's say, because there's like 30 minutes of eating, right? Or sometimes it was more like, oh, I've been, like I had my OMAD yesterday at 5, and today we're having OMAD at 6. Like it just like sometimes there's that kind of overlap. These days, because our schedules are different than they were back then. It seems like there's a lot more variability. Again, because some of it is church and liturgy and like timing the fasting around that. But there are some times where it'll be like I'll have like today my OMAD was at what, like 2, and so but then it would be not unheard of for to the next day's OMAD to be something at like 5, or that kind of a thing. So in that kind of case, if the day before the one at 2 o'clock was at 5 o'clock, then the the number of hours between the fasts, between the meals would have been less than 24 hours. So, but on average, it's about 24 hours. Although I should also mention, just because I always like to try to keep people up to date on like what am I doing right now. Like Monday through Friday, generally OMAD. Saturday, 2 meals a day, because that's when we do our pancake breakfast in the morning, and then we have a family night in the evening. So I eat twice on Saturday, and then on Sunday I fast for communion, and then we have coffee hour at around 11 or 11:30. So that kind of, and then for the rest of the day, I just eat whenever. I always take Sundays off, always, from fasting, except for to fast for communion. So that's a little, just a summary of what I do. Carissa, are you still walking daily? Yes, I do. I've for a while, several months ago, I had just experimented with, instead of walking 6 miles a day, swimming. Not swimming 6 miles a day, but just like having that be my thing, like doing like 50 laps in my pool, and just kind of trying that out just to see, do I like that better? Like, how does that work? Does that work with maintenance? Does it work with my life and everything? And I found that I did enjoy that, but I really like doing my steps. I enjoy walking. There's I don't know, there's a lot to it that I just like, and I think better when I'm walking. And I like to. There are just things that I wasn't quite getting with the swimming that I do get with the walking. Although I do love to get in the pool too. So yeah, but I do my steps. I do take the day off from steps on Sunday as well. So that doesn't mean I won't go for a walk if I feel like going for a walk. And certainly if I'm feeling stressed for some reason, I'll walk around, because that is one of my favorite ways to deal with stress, or any kind of emotional kind of thing, is just to go for a walk. So yeah, today I've gotten in. Let's see, I'm at 10,240 right now, and that's the tracker I use right now. It's the Casio G-Shock, which has a step tracker in it. You have to be careful with the G-Shocks. Like, some of the older ones don't have the step tracker, but this one does, and I really enjoy it because it's an actual like watch. I loved Fitbits. Fitbits were great to get me started in the walking habit. They would give me digital badges, and it motivated me like nobody's business. It really helped. But I wanted a watch. I wanted something that looked like a watch and acted like a watch. So yeah. All right. Ed Recovery says, how much more? Let's see.
That's their name.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was confused. Ed Recovery, how much more? I struggle with my energy levels in the morning and in the and up to the end of my fasting period, usually in the afternoon. Any suggestions? Okay. coffee. I mean, that is one thing that I do. I drink coffee, and so that does, I'm sure, give me a energy boost, as compared with if you don't drink coffee. Although, some people said they've got great energy without coffee, and but I that would be one thing. Make sure you're getting good sleep. That'd be another part of it. If you're not sleeping well, I mean, because there's a lot of reasons people maybe don't sleep well. Uh, but if there's something like bothering you, then that would be something to discuss with somebody, like a priest or a therapist or something like that. Like if you're just having trouble sleeping, um, make sure you're eating enough also, uh, because if you get into too much of a deficit, your energy levels like plummet. I mean, your body is going to fight against you when it comes to weight loss, like because it wants to hang on to the weight. It's like, no, we want to, survive famine, and so it's gonna like fight you, and it's gonna like cue you to do things that will increase, either increase your intake. So like it's like, okay, you're hungry now, like go eat. It's gonna, your stomach's gonna growl and stuff like that. But then also it'll say, okay, we just won't burn as much, as many calories. Like you're just gonna lay around. So it's kind of like a balancing act. You want to be eating enough so you have good energy levels, but not being in a surplus where you're going to gain weight, but then not being in such a severe deficit that your energy levels are, down, and then you just don't feel like doing stuff. Um, uh, Also, like just from a perspective, there are like lots of little things that I do, that keeps me in a better like headspace, and so I'm not like, because energy levels, that's kind of a broad thing, right? Like why might you not be feeling very much energy? So I like to look at the wheel of life and kind of see like how's that wheel going. So like that's a Zig Ziglar thing. He basically looks at each chunk of life and says like, is there a part where there's some things that need to improve? Like, so you look at your spiritual life, your relationships, your like, are you challenging yourself mentally? How's your career? All those things. If there's a problem in any of one of those areas, that can lead to just having like kind of low energy and kind of being in a funk. Um, and if you're in kind of a funk, because I was definitely in a funk, in 2014, and when I was at my heaviest, and so um, taking action on all of it. I did not like the job I was doing at that time, um, and I was just kind of low energy all the time. So I made myself a playlist called Get Happy, like because I realized, because I read an article, it's like it's a choice. Like you can actually get yourself into a good mood. Like if you're in a bad mood, you can actually do things like listening to music, upbeat music, like doing things that will actually put you into a better headspace. You can do that. Prayer, confession, all those things are helpful. What else? Oh, Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist. He has a whole like video about dopamine levels, how to get them evened out. And it's a great explanation. I highly recommend that video. He talks about things to do like when you first get up, things to do daily. Cold exposure, that's another thing you can try. Like just if you've got a cold body of water that you could go jump into, that's the best way to do it, is my understanding. But you can also just turn the shower on cold and take a cold shower, which I was doing for a really long time, and then I stopped doing it. But winter's coming, so I'll probably do that. I like wintertime is a time where there's less sunlight. My mood tends to be lower, and so I try to be very proactive. I was proactive last winter. I would take cold showers every day and that kind of thing. It really helped. Plus, I was already going through a rough time. My dad had cancer, and I knew it was like I've got to like be really proactive. And I'm really glad I was proactive, because all those things that I just listed helped me to get through that time. It was still very difficult, and my dad died in May, and it's still tough, but all those things help. So anyway, that's what I would offer. Um, Darlene asked, "Is your new watch waterproof?" Why, yes, it is. It's actually waterproof to 20 bars, and that would be really impressive if I knew what it was. But I don't really know. I know this. I'm pretty sure I could go like deep sea diving, and it would function. So that's something. Like, I'm not a deep sea diver, but I do think it's cool that I can just like jump into the water with this thing on and swim with it. Like, I can swim with it and
200 meters.
200 meters. I mean, and I'm not going to go more than 600 feet underwater. Like, that's not going to happen. At least, well, maybe it could one day, but I don't know. Um, let's see. Nimrata Bassam 9548 asks, can intermittent fasting cause early periods, like twice a month, or 12 days after completing periods, getting it again? Okay. So, generally speaking, whenever you find, if you're a female and like there starts to be a problem with your period, I say that's a big red flag. You need to like figure out what's going on. With like, because that's like an important part of our makeup, our physical makeup, is like the reproductive side. And so I feel like if something's kind of out of whack, it's time to pause, just make sure everything's good, and then continue on. So it might be, like if it was just a one-off thing, I would say like I wouldn't really worry about it. And again, not a doctor. Always check with your doctor, and especially if you feel like something's off, then definitely go get it checked out. But um, people ask me all the time, like, does intermittent fasting affect your period? It did not for me. I did 2 different videos about intermittent fasting and your period, and one like there was like one time out of all the time that I had been tracking it, where it was like I had a period, just a random early period, like on day 17, as opposed to, say like normally it was like, I think every, 25, 26 days. And that was what was normal for me. But that one early day, I was like, whoa, but then it went right back to normal, and it just hadn't happened. So if it's, one, like kind of a one-off thing, that can happen just because of stress also. Just being really stressed out about something, and then, the event, passes or whatever. If you ever lose your period completely and you're not pregnant, that can be a sign that you are overdoing it. Like you are exercising too hard and eating too little. There's a certain name for it. It's amenorrhea, but there's like a certain term, and that's not good either, in my opinion. That's more common in like really high level athletes, female athletes, like they'll lose it. And so, uh, I would just say, talk to your doctor about it, basically. Intermittent fasting shouldn't really be the one to blame for that. Maybe, although, again, every body is different. So, Caesar Zalea, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, says, what foods are better to break the fast? Well, okay, so one answer would be, and this is not my answer, one answer would be like, well, you need to break it really gently. Like, and some people have very strong opinions about, oh, you should break it in this certain kind of way. But I'm kind of in a different philosophy. I think you should break it with whatever you've been craving during the fasting window. Like that was something that really helped me, especially in the beginning when I was trying to learn how to do fasting better. Just like get better at this. When I realized, like, look, the fasting window, usually the only time it kind of felt hard was if I saw something I really wanted, right? And I was like, oh, I'd really like to eat that, whatever. But if I knew that as soon as that window opens, I can go eat that thing, then it just made the fasting window easier. And it was like, hey, I made it to the eating window, yay. And so it's like, I think you should be very careful with food rewards. I try not to reward myself with food, but the reality is we all break the fast with food. So like you are in that way rewarding yourself with food. And so having that kind of like just go ahead and eat that thing when the window opens, I think is a good idea. So so yeah, so I would, but I think that's the best thing to do. But I've also not found any kind of like any sort of correlation with like, oh, if I just open, break it with this certain kind of food, then that goes better. It's just like whatever I want to eat, like that's what I break it with. And so yeah, give yourself those things you want during the eating window. I used to kind of have like the dieter's mindset, like, no, you got to be really good, like in the eating window. But when I get 2016 was when I really got clear on that. Like I can have whatever I want. Like I'm not going to try to restrict any kind of food. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. Uh, I got stopping power. It was crazy. It was a really good thing to do. Um, Chris asked, "Do you gain a ton the days you are not fasting?" No. So I think I did, like a while back. I think I did some sort of analysis. Like, I mean, actually, this was probably years ago, where because people were asking that, like, well, what about when you're, don't you just gain a bunch on like Sunday, and so that weight would show up then therefore on Monday, and so then like, aren't you basically just like working off Saturday or like Sunday's eating, the rest of the week? And no, um, I mean, it might be up a little on Monday on average, but sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It really is more about like what kind of foods am I eating? If I'm eating really salty stuff, and drinking a lot of like water and stuff to go with that, then of course the weight will be up higher. But no, like now I can like my weight just on average, it can, not on average, sorry, like a daily weight can go up. I want to say the most it ever went up overnight was 5.6 pounds. For some reason, that's in my head. But it's different for everybody. Some people don't experience those kind of jumps. Most of the time, my weight does not jump that much. On average, it's something like a pound, right? So like, it's like going to be like 149, 150, 148. Like that's the kind of like uh, kind of bouncing up and down it'll do on average a pound. Um, so yeah. So when you reach your goal weight, let's see. So when you reach your weight goal, do you stay on OMAD? Okay, so I do, but I have experimented all different ways with it, and I found that I could maintain where I wanted to maintain, doing things like a 16-8 or 2 MAD or whatever. But I did find that there it's really more for me at least, like because at this point I've been in maintenance for 6 years. Really I've done like 7 years of maintenance because I got down to my initial goal weight of 158 at that was the end of 2016. So I maintained for like a year before I started this channel. Then I lost some more weight, and then I maintained since October of 2018. So the point is, I've been experimenting, at various times during maintenance over the course of these years to kind of figure out like what do I feel the best doing. I like to experiment. I like to tinker. I like to, just kind of figure things out. I wrote about it in this book, The Laid Back Guide to Weight Loss Maintenance. So if you hit your goal weight and you're like, what do I do now? This book is why I wrote it, like just to show you all the different mistakes I made and the things that actually are good to do and that have helped me. But the point is, like, I was curious, like, do I need to stay on OMAD, like, in order to maintain? And so what I have found is that I like OMAD the best. Like, my days are structured better. I feel the best. My energy's the best. Like, OMAD's my jam. But sometimes I do get in this mood, like, I just want to change things up, like variety is the spice of life, right? And so, and I also overthink having this channel and everything because I'm like, well, am I just doing OMAD because I have the channel? And, like, so then I'm like, no, I need to try other, like doing, 2 meals a day and then, see how I like that. And so, um, what I have found though is a not great combination for me is when things are really stressful or emotional, and then also on top of that trying to do like say 2 MAD or like more of like a window like a 16/8 is just more stressful. It's not that I can't do it. I can eat the right amount of food, but it takes so much more mental space and then therefore kind of stress doing it that way. And I would just rather just do it the easy way. Like OMAD's just easy. Like I can just do it. So yeah, so just keeping on doing what you're doing that got you to the goal weight will keep you there. Um, the the way you will gain weight back is simply by going into old bad habits. I just finished the book The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So a great book. Um, but anyway, he was making the point about how habits are always there. Like these habits that we have, and if we're, when I'm talking I'm saying anybody who has had a weight problem means there are some habits around food that have to change. And the real trick is to replace habits, like replace the routines with better ones that will support either your weight loss or your maintenance. The thing is that bad habit, it's always there. Like there's that it's there and it's ready to come to the surface. And generally speaking, and this was actually in the book, I was like, well, it's nice to just kind of get confirmation about this. Like the old habit tends to want to resurface when things are stressful, because it's just like that. Like it's like one of the first thing your brain does is like kind of forgets the new habits and wants to go back into the old habit. So what you have to do though is you have to just remind yourself to stay in the good habit. You have to remain aware of what's going on. And that was certainly true. Something I found like in this past year, it's like when I'm feeling stressed, my first, like the thing in my brain, the first like click in my brain when it's like, oh, I feel sad or I feel stressed, the thing I want to do is like go get a snack, right? Like that's like that is the thing, that's the first thought. I don't do that though. I'm like, no, okay, that snack is actually not what you want. It's the old habit that you used to do, and so it's still there. What's the thing that will actually make me feel better though? Prayer, journaling, talking it out with somebody else. My husband is a great listener. He's had to listen to a lot this year, but there's a lot of different things you can do that will get you that result that you want. And even though you have that bad habit there, right, like the emotional eating habit or whatever, you can absolutely overcome it. And you just have to be aware that like when things get rough, you're gonna have to be like just more aware and more stubborn about it. Like, okay, not doing that, doing this other thing. So let's see, poll. Oh, we did a poll. Do you drink coffee during the fasting window? 67% said yes. 17% drink tea. I love tea also. Irish breakfast is my favorite. 10% don't drink coffee. And then 3% drink something else. Yeah, I've had people, ask about like Diet Coke and things like that, and I've had lots of people drink diet sodas. I love also. I don't really like diet drinks just because the flavor of fake sugar, or artificial sweeteners, not my favorite. But I do love bubblies or like any kind of sparkling flavored unsweetened water. So they, like from a budget standpoint, they're a bit of a luxury in my opinion. But especially in the early days of fasting, if you kind of just need something, right? And man, cracking open a can of something with like a really cold, bubbly something inside is, I think, just a treat. And so something like that can definitely help you through the fasting window. It's got just enough flavor just to kind of give you a little, just a little something. But having things like that during your fasting window can make it feel so much easier. Like it just allowing yourself something. Even if it's like, oh, I don't want any calories. Well, you can figure out some different no calorie things that can kind of still give you that same kind of like you know. Carissa asked, "Do you do strength training?" Okay, so I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard and failing miserably to get into a weightlifting habit. I have the bench. It's out on my back porch. I have no excuse. Okay, I have
You
no.
see it every day.
I see it every day. We sit down and
Me
I
too.
I look at it. Yeah, my husband too. Like he also wants to get out there and do it, and it is so hard to get into a new habit. I mean, it mocks me every day. I'm like, I know how to get into habits. I know that it doesn't take that long, right? But in my head, it's like, well, yeah, but I really need to, like, I always think of it at the worst possible time. It's like I've already showered, so I'll get to it tomorrow. It's all excuses, and it's not good. But anyway, okay. Will drinking 0-calorie drinks like Powerade break my fast or make it harder to lose weight? No. The answer is no. It won't make it harder to lose weight. In fact, I would say it would make it easier to lose weight. Now, the only thing I will say is this, and you know, you'd have to kind of ask yourself which type of person are you, but uh, there is some evidence, and again, you know, like studies and stuff like that, I kind of just take them with a grain of salt. But it might be for some people that artificial sweeteners make you feel hungrier than you would have otherwise, because there's something about like the way the brain interacts with the stomach. So like the brain's like, oh, you had something sweet, but there's no calories, and so there's like this disconnect, and so then like your hunger signal kicks in to try to like make it all agree. I don't know. It does seem like that for me, or at least back when I would drink like Diet Coke and stuff, I found myself eating a lot more and feeling hungrier than if I just had the Coke. But that could have been a lot of different things. It could have been like feeling really restricted because I had to have the Diet Coke. But if I just gave myself the regular Coke, then I felt less restricted. I don't know. But yeah, something. Okay, and so, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I should also mention I do have a course on teachable intermittent fasting for weight loss. If you need kind of like a structured thing, there's a workbook PDF that goes with it, takes you through the entire process, gives you kind of just the step by step. I do have lots of free videos on here though. It's, you know, like the bad part about YouTube is like, you know, you kind of have to just hunt and peck for stuff. But that course is just laid out for you. I'm also in there in the discussion feature. You can ask any questions that you have along the way. And I also have office hours. So if you have questions about a specific topic in the course and you need some more help with that, happy to meet with you on that. So anyway, and Jay will put the link to that in the description. So thank you guys again so much for joining me. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time.